What's up, people? And so I noticed I did a tier list video last month in August, and I also think I did one back in July. And so that was when I finally decided, you know what, that's gonna be a fun thing. Let's just do it one tier list every month for a little bit. So that's what I'm doing. And next, I decided to do the Wizarding World, or Harry Potter slash Fantastic Beasts. So, a little history on my history with these books. So, I read the Harry Potter books, and I really enjoyed them. Like, I really liked the creativity J.K. Rowling had with them, where like Harry is somebody who grows up not knowing anything, and that makes him the perfect audience surrogate because then you see everything or read about everything and you're in awe about everything that's going on, and it's really cool. And the story just got more and more interesting as the books went on, and characters died, and it's heartbreaking and all that. And the ending was one of the most satisfying endings in fiction ever. And then I eventually watched all the movies and really enjoyed them. And then there's also the Fantastic Beasts movies, which haven't been as good. I definitely agree with the general consensus there that these just aren't as good. So, I mean, um, so in my Jurassic Park video, because I did all the movies in order, it ended up ending on a depressing note because I thought Dominion was the worst movie, and I put that last. So I regretted that, and so I'm now just deciding to do all these movies in chronological order. So it'll be a lot. So hopefully it'll will end on a more positive note. Well, because yeah, I guess I could sort of figure out my opinion with some of these. So, yeah, without further ado, I think we can go on ahead. So, of course, we will start with the first movie chronologically, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And um, when I rewatched it to prepare for Secrets of Dumbledore, yeah, I'll admit it was better than I remember. Or I originally thought it was pretty good, but no, this is really good actually. Not quite as good as some of the Harry Potter movies, but still worth a watch. You know, unlike the two sequels, which feel like stepping stones, they feel more like episodes in a series. This is like feels like a movie that could stand on its own. Um, and it of course introduced all these new characters who are all pretty cool. Oh, like Newt's likable, Jacob's funny, and Tina's cool too. And there's also two twists in this that I did not see coming. You have Ezra Miller being the what's it called, Obscurus, and then you have Colin Farrell's character. You find out he's actually Grindelwald, which that was crazy. So, yep. I mean, it is a little boring because there's really not much action in here, but it's still a fun watch. And there's still some of that awe when they go into the suitcase and see all the creatures there. Er, and it is also refreshing too seeing adults actually use these spells when because they're not restricted by all the rules at Hogwarts. That does make it refreshing. Like now they're operating all over the place by themselves, so it's really cool. Moving on to the Crimes of Grindelwald, which it seems like most people can agree this is the worst of the franchise, which I definitely agree. Crimes of Grindelwald was pretty bad, man. Just I don't really have much new to say that everybody else hasn't said, but yeah, like if you read well, I haven't read the screenplay, but I've heard people who did read it will say it's actually a lot better and it makes a lot more sense. I even heard one guy say the script reads more like a book, which does explain why this movie isn't like is all wrong. Just the way they'll have stuff happen and then not explain some things. Like so some magic will happen and you'll be thinking, "Wait, what?" And there's so many characters, it's hard to keep track who you're supposed to care about. And it's pretty ridiculous. It's like like as much as I like Johnny Depp, I just didn't care for him as Grindelwald. I don't know. He just every time I heard him talk, I just could not hear Captain Jack Sparrow. And you also had Queenie, who was a cool character in the first one, but in this one feels completely different. Like she's suddenly willing to put a spell on Jacob and like making him fall in love with her even though he already loves her, and then she goes to the dark side at the end. Nagini's in this for some reason, and we find out apparently she used to be a human. Cool. That's cool to know when Neville kills her later. Like, okay. And what else? Oh, Nicholas Flamel is in here. Okay, cool. Oh, McGonagall too. They threw her in there, even though it makes no sense within the story. Where that's one of those things where you can tell it was fan service just for the sake of fan service. And yeah, it's pretty bad. As for the next one, Secrets of Dumbledore, when I first watched it and did my first thoughts video on it, I said I liked it. Even said it was pretty good, but I recently rewatched it and I think I'm gonna have to take that back. It's not a. It's definitely better than The Crimes of Grindelwald, but it's not very good. Like it still has some of the same problems Crimes does with a lot of magic happening where you'll just be confused and it'll make more sense if you read the screenplay. And there are also still some things that don't really much. Oh yeah, like as for examples of magic not really making sense. I still don't get how they destroyed the blood pact. Like I don't really know how that happened. And there are again a lot more characters in here, and I don't really care. That's one of the things. I just don't really care. And Dumbledore and Grindelwald have a little more screen time together, but like they talk about their gay relationship, and I'm just kind of sitting here thinking, okay, that's cool, I guess. How cool would it be to have seen that gay relationship? Like maybe do some flashbacks, what it was like. I kind of want to see this. I kind of if you want me to care about this relationship, then let me see what it was like. Oh yeah, because uh, I guess gay relationships are hard to do in a franchise like this that makes billions of dollars. And yeah, just I kept checking on whether or not they're going to do a Fantastic Beasts 4 because I know Rowling said it would be a 5 film series, but so far they have not announced a fourth movie. So, and this movie hasn't really done very well, or at least not as good as the previous ones. So, I kind of doubt we're going to get another one, which is sort of a shame because I want to see what the Dumbledore Grindelwald fight would be like, but oh well, I guess we have our imagination. All right, so now we move on to the main course, which I think you're all waiting for me to talk about the Harry Potter movies. So obviously, we will start with the Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone, if you want me to say it. I'm American, so I'm calling it Sorcerer's Stone. Um, so I I remember when I rewatched this movie like a few months ago. I was kind of taken aback how much I enjoyed it. I was like, wait, no, this is really good, actually. Yeah, Sorcerer's Stone is really good, man. You know, it's definitely the most, out of all the HP movies, it feels the most, like, wondrous. And you have the score written by John Williams, who really does a good job making the whole world feel, for lack of a better word, magical. Well, obviously, a lot of the themes he does are really good. And Chris Columbus directed this, who directed Home Alone, and he does a good job directing his child actors. Like I've heard he makes them feel comfortable. And the acting isn't that great. Like I think it's most jarring when you have the kid actors talking to the really good adult actors. It's definitely a lot more jarring there, but it's not the worst acting I've ever seen. And this movie does a really good job of introducing this world and like taking the world that you imagined in the book to life. And yeah, it's a really good introduction. And I mean, again, the acting's not that great from the kids, and the CGI doesn't really hold up, but it's still a fun watch. Then we have the Chamber of Secrets, which I was honestly surprised to hear people don't like Chamber of Secrets that much. Like some people say it's one of the weaker movies. I'm honestly not sure what their thought process is with this one because I think this movie is really good. In fact, I would even say it's an improvement over Sorcerer's Stone. Like something I heard J.K. Rowling say, I think she said was the Harry Potter books are mystery books disguised as fantasy. And out of all the movies, Chamber of Secrets feels the most like a mystery where all the clues they'll give you, like, ooh, who opened the Chamber of Secrets? And, like, who was that girl that was killed 50 years ago? Like, they'll raise all these questions, and it gets me intrigued, even though I've already seen it. Uh, it's really fun seeing it unravel. And, oh, and Dobby's also really cool. Crazy how well that CG holds up. And, oh, and you also have the Basilisk battle at the end, which is also really cool. Well, it's weird how a lot of CGI in this one holds up a lot better than the last one. And what else? Oh, and you also have Kenneth Branagh as a Lockhart, who's pretty fun too. And yeah, not much else. Chamber of Secrets, I think, is a really good movie that I don't really get why people don't like it that much, but I think it's really good. Now we move on to The Prisoner of Azkaban, which a lot of people say is the best movie, which I disagree, but yeah, it is definitely in the great tier for me. The Man, Prisoner of Azkaban is so good, man. Alfonso Cuarón directed this one, and he has some of the most unique directing out of all the movies. He's where I haven't really seen any of his other movies. I feel like I really should, but his directing in this one is really, again, creative with the cameras going through glass. And it does obviously take the darker tone as the kids are maturing a lot more. And you also have Sirius Black introduced and the mystery around him, and Remus Lupin is in this one as well. Oh, and more John Williams music, which I noticed the only theme he brought back for this one was Hedwig's theme for some reason, but his music in this one's still pretty good too. And yeah, I think a lot of other people have talked about why it's really that good, but yeah, that's I thought it's a Prisoner of Azkaban. Moving on to the Goblet of Fire, which, unlike Chamber, where people say it's one of the weaker movies, I can see why with Goblet. There are definitely it is a much longer book too, and you can kind of tell when watching a movie that there are some stuff missing because they had to crank it down to a movie that's under 3 hours long. So I could definitely see the problems people have with it, but I still think it's pretty good. I would put it in between Fantastic Beasts and Sorcerer's Stone. well, again, there's the problems it has. I definitely agree with. You have the whole thing where they keep building up the try. No, they the Quidditch World Cup. They keep building that up, make you excited to see it, and then they just skip past the whole thing. Like, what was the point of having all that build up? And then I remember the moment they started the Yule Ball, I was just kind of like, oh yeah, then there's all this. And the Yule Ball stuff was honestly really boring. Okay, can we get back to the tournament? Can we get back to the tournament, guys? I get it has character development in there. I get that, but there is just so much screen time dedicated to it, especially with that weird band that's in there. And May's task at the end is really underwhelming. It's just like, again, if you read the book, there are a bunch of things in there that I would have loved to have seen on the big screen, but it's just not there. But other than those problems, there are definitely some things about this movie that hold it up for me that make it good. You have the mystery about who put Harry's name in the goblet, and the fire or the dragon task is really cool, and the lake task is actually pretty suspenseful, surprisingly enough. And you also have the pretty much every second in that graveyard at the end is really cool. Well, just I love seeing Ray Fiennes be introduced as Voldemort and fighting Harry and killing Cedric, which was crazy. Really earning its PG-13 rating there. And then, of course, the twist that Mad Eye was actually Barty Crouch Jr. the whole time. Um, and then just and also Hermione's line at the end about everything's going to change, hasn't it? Like, really making you excited to see the next few movies. Is and something else that just popped into my head that I know a lot of people would yell at me about if I didn't mention it, but I guess there is the whole Harry, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire? Which, yeah, I definitely remember thinking that was weird. Just like, he should be nice in that. That is literally a direct, like or calmly is the direct word from that scene. But oh well. Moving on to Order of the Phoenix, and I am one of those people who says Order of the Phoenix is one of the best movies. For me, it is in top the top tier for along with Prisoner of Azkaban. And something Movie Flame pointed out, which you should subscribe to him if you haven't. But he pointed out that this is maybe the only HP movie where Harry himself actually has a character arc where, he starts fearing that he's might become Voldemort because of his connection to him, but then he realizes he has one of the few things that Voldemort can never understand, and loving his friends and all that. And it's really cool, that really powerful. And obviously Umbridge is in this one, who is lovably hateable. Well, yeah, I do growl every time, or I guess groan is a better word, every time she's on screen. And and the whole battle of the Ministry of Magic too is insanely cool. Like, this is the first one where David Yates directed, and good on him for coming into the series, because he hit the action scenes in every movie that he directs are pretty much all of them are really good. And the Ministry of Magic fight definitely proves that. And and obviously the fight between Dumbledore and Voldemort, and Sirius's death is really sad. And pretty much everything about this works. And also the fact that it's again one of the longer books, but they're able to condense it in a 2 hour runtime, and it somehow feels okay. It actually is able to be condensed a lot, really good. And there isn't really that much things I can think of from the book that I would have loved to have seen, but yeah, it's pretty good. I cannot say the same thing about the next one, Half Blood Prince, which, in my opinion, Half Blood Prince is the worst HP movie. There's so many things in it that almost make me want to say it's bad. You have the, like a lot of people have said, it focuses way too much on the romance. With Ron, or I guess Wan and what's her face, Lavender, and then you also have there's this whole scene where Ron has this love potion in him for this other girl, and Harry's having a thing with Ginny, which I've seen people say the romance in the book is really good. Because if that's because I don't remember it that well, but if that's true, then man, did they not translate it very well and on screen. And you also have the weird like burrow attack they have like around the midpoint. Like it is completely pointless. Like they burn the burrow at the end of that fight, but it's like you don't like once you go to the next movie, it's fine. And it makes it even dumber why they would have a wedding there if it's been attacked before. Or like was that thrown in there just because they thought they needed more action? Like I guess it's better than romance, but still. Oh, and also Voldemort's backstory. That's one of the few things I remember from the books that I'm like, I would have loved to have seen that. It's all fascinating. I want to learn more about that. But this one's like, nah, who cares about it? We're just gonna show you a memory of him as a kid and the one about him asking Slughorn about the Horcrux. That's all we're gonna give you. Oh, just okay. What about I get you can't have all the memories in here because of time, but you could have cut down the romance and focused more on the backstory. I'm just saying. But what holds this up from being bad for me? Um, well, Draco is the most out of all the movies. Draco is the most interesting in this one. You have him going to the room of requirement and finding using that wardrobe. Oh, and you also have Snape has some screen time in this, and he's real. Well, I guess he has screen time in all of them, but something about him stands out in this one, I guess. And you also have basically everything in that cave is really cool. Oh, when Harry is forcing Dumbledore to drink all of that, I am on the edge of my seat, and obviously Dumbledore's death is sad. And something I noticed too on this recent rewatch when Snape, says Avada Kedavra, uh, I noticed there was this kind of like regret or like sort of sadness in his voice when he said that, which is crazy since we find out later that Snape was told by Dumbledore himself to kill him. So just the fact that Alan Rickman gave that extra like tone to his voice when he did that shows how much he cares about this character. So just really cool. Like there's some points of this that save it from being bad for me. But yeah, the bad stuff in this is pretty bad though. Now on to the Deathly Hallows Part 1, which if you look at this movie as like a part of the series, it works. It's a natural progression from Half Blood Prince to Deathly Hallows Part 2, and it sets up everything you need to know going into Part 2. But if you look at it as its own standalone movie, it's not that good. And it's a little better than Half Blood Prince for me. Just I remember the second it ended, I was just kind of like, oh man, that is so unsatisfying. Because then I had to wait a little longer just to watch part two because I was getting invested in the story. Eh, and and they also spend a lot of time on camping, and this whole movie really does have the feeling of we're just setting up all the things you need to know for part two. Oh, and that's the only reason this movie exists. Is so Like it definitely has that feeling, but there's still some parts of it I enjoy. You have the action scenes are really cool. Hedwig dying was pretty sad, and obviously Dobby dying at the end was really sad. And you also have what else? Um, I guess seeing Umbridge again is lovingly hateable again. Um, oh man, I'm trying to think. Actually, I can't. I don't want to give this video too much silence, but yeah, I can't really think of much else. So yeah, that's Deathly Hallows Part One. Now moving on to the more exciting movie and the final movie, obviously, Deathly Hallows Part Two, which, in my opinion, is the best movie. It is one of the most satisfying endings to a series I've ever seen. And just the whole Battle of Hogwarts is really cool. I'm glad David Yates again stayed to direct this one because the action scenes are all really awesome. And you also have uh, again Voldemort dying, and and you also have the sadness of seeing all those other characters die. Like Fred dies and Lupin, and that's all sad. And also Snape dying is pretty sad too. And the whole like his memories is, or I guess the Prince's Tale. I think a chapter in the book is called. The whole scene is pretty much amazing, and it just especially obviously Snape saying always. So powerful, man. And yeah, this movie is both satisfying and sad too, because I'm thinking about all the sad moments towards the end. When Harry has to say goodbye to Hermione and Ron, thinking that he'll never see them again, and seeing his parents there as ghosts, and Sirius and Lupin, telling him they've always been there, and just thinking about it is is bringing the tone down, I guess. But the action scenes are awesome. Yeah, just yeah, and the whole ending is cool and sad. But yeah, again, not much else to say. This was a pretty awesome finale to the series, and I wouldn't have picked a better ending. And so yeah, that's my tier list on the whole Wizarding World franchise. Which is a franchise I don't care about that much, but it is definitely like the Harry Potter movies. I'll watch again every now and then. Fantastic Beasts movies, not so much. I just don't really care about these characters that much, and yeah, not much else I can think of. Pretty cool franchise, pretty cool movies. Well, most of them. So, peace.